Hello guys and welcome back to the second episode of the Mcreator Modding series. In this episode, we're going to cover how you can make your own custom items and add them to a custom creative tab. Without further ado, let's get started. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to click the subscribe button as it supports me a lot and shows me that you want more Mcreator tutorials. Now when I make an item, the first thing I do is I make a texture for it. So we're going to go over to the resources tab, and as you can see we have the logo that we imported from the last episode. If you want to learn how to import your own logo into your mod, don't forget to watch the first episode of the series. But there are two ways you can add a texture to an item. First of all, you can create your own texture and texture it within Mcreator, or you can import a texture. Me personally, I don't like Mcreator's texture editor, and that's why I use a free program called a sprite. But if you don't know how to create your own texture, you can watch the first episode where I covered how you can create your own texture. But for now, we're just gonna import a texture from my files. We're gonna select import item texture. There we go. I've imported the texture. For you, it should open a file explorer and you can select your texture from there. This is a texture from my other mod, Content Craft. Now that we have a texture for the item, we can go ahead and make the item. If we go over to the mod elements tab, we can find the item all the way at the bottom, or you can press I. Now there are some specific rules to naming items listed here, which I would highly recommend following, just so that your mod is compatible and works fine. Now my item is called Xenon Ingot, so I'm just gonna quickly type it in. Make sure you spell it using camel cases, which is capitalizing the first letter of each word, and you can't have any spaces because otherwise it'll give you an error. We're gonna hit create new item and a new screen should pop up. We're gonna go through some of the item tabs and cover the different properties that you can fill in. First of all, let's import our item texture that we imported in the start. And as you can see from here as well, you can create your own texture or you can import it from this menu as well. But generally, I like importing my stuff before I make a new item or block. We can see the texture at the start and we're gonna import that. We can click select and you can see our texture is displayed over here. Then the next property is has item glowing effect. You can select this if you want. This is, I believe, the enchantment glint, but I'm not 100% sure. Then special information is essentially just a tooltip of the item. We're gonna leave this blank for now. Then we can go to the next tab. I'm also gonna cover item states in depth later on, so we can skip this for now. We can skip animations as well, and we can head on over to the properties tab. Here we can edit the item's in-game name. We can select the rarity, which affects the item name color as well. We can select our creative mode tabs. For now, I'm just gonna keep it in the ingredients tab, and later on I'm going to show you how to make your own creative tab. So we can select ingredients and use selected. The max stack size affects how many items can fit in the item stack. This goes up to 99 and the minimum is 1. The enchantability is how common rare enchantments can be applied to the item. If we click this tooltip over here, you can see the vanilla values, and since Xenon is supposed to be similar to netherite, we're going to keep it at 15. Next we have the item destroy speed. This affects how fast this item can break blocks. I'm just gonna leave it at 1 because it's not a tool. Then we have the durability, which we're gonna leave at 0. Then we have the repair items, which are just for armor and tools. The rest of the checkboxes are pretty self-descriptive. I am going to highlight is item immune to fire because Xenon is meant to be similar to netherite. Then we're gonna go over to use properties. This can be useful for ranged items. In the advanced properties, you can bind GUIs to the item, you can make it a music disc, you can add melee properties. We're gonna also go into the attribute modifier later on in the series. Then we have the triggers. Triggers basically allow you to do something with the item. So for example, when the item is right click, that's a trigger, that's like a trigger event. And then you can add a procedure of which is basically code that you can run when the item, for example, is right click. But for now, I'm pretty happy with this item. You can go ahead and customize this more depending on what you want for your own item. We're gonna click save mod element, and this is gonna close that tab over here, and we can see our item. Now me personally, whether I'm coding a mod or I'm making an Mcreator mod, I like to keep my projects very organized. What I like about Mcreator is that you have folders that you can sort your mod elements into. If we go and click the folder actions button and we create a new folder, and we're gonna call this items. We're gonna hit save and we're gonna drag the xenon ingot in the items. I would recommend doing this from the start because as your mod gets bigger and bigger, it's gonna be very hard to clean up, as I've seen with many big Mcreator mods. This helps you to navigate your mod much easier than just having an entire screen of different elements and you're just being confused all the time. But now I'm going to show you how to create your own tab. What I like to do is in my items, I like to create a new folder inside that called creative tabs. Obviously, you can lay out your own folders in a different way than I do. This is just my preferred way. We're going to call this creative tabs and save that. And inside creative tabs, we're going to create a new element. We're going to find the creative tab or press W and we're going to give it a name. I'm going to call it tutorial mod tab. Feel free to call it whatever you want. Then we can customize the icon. You can choose any item here, but I prefer to have my own mod item as the icon. You can also enable a search bar if your mod is very big, but I highly recommend against it. You can also edit the name, but I like the name and we're going to keep that. We can save our element and then we can go back into the items folder and then we can select our ingot and go back to properties. And instead of ingredients, we can click close all and then we can add the new tutorial mod tab. You can add multiple tabs to a single item, but I prefer to have all my items in their own mod tab. So we can click this button to close that. Our item is all set up. We can run the game. There we go. We are in the new world. If we open our creative inventory, we can see there are some new buttons on the top. If we click that, we can see our brand new tutorial mod tab and we can see our item, and it's pretty cool. I like it. I hope you have more of a sense on how to add items to your Mcreator mod, and I hope this was helpful. If it was, again, don't forget to subscribe. I will have more tutorials coming out later on. The next tutorial will be about adding blocks to your Mcreator mod. But until then, goodbye.